Seth rises early in the morning to face another dull and monotonous day. Isolated and without any friends or relatives, the only companions in his life are the dogs at the animal control center where he works. After feeding them all, he steps into the cage of one named Lexi, embracing her just to experience a moment of warmth and affection. One evening, on his usual bus ride home, Seth is surprised to spot Holly. He walks over and greets her, but she doesn't recall who he is. Seth explains they went to the same high school, though they were never close. He was a grade above her and knew her because she was popular. Noticing Holly jotting notes in a book, Seth guesses she's a writer. She clarifies that while she works as a waitress, writing is just a personal passion. Seth tries to lighten the moment with a poorly delivered joke, which only adds discomfort to the conversation. When Holly announces her stop, Seth tries asking her out, but she exits the bus before hearing him. That night, he looks her up on social media and is thrilled to see she owns a dog. The following day, he seeks dating advice from his colleague Nate. Nate advises Seth to be bold and make her laugh. Later, Seth is crushed to learn Lexi is scheduled for euthanasia. He takes her gently from her cage, soothing her while placing her on the table. When the vet suggests he could adopt her, Seth laments that his apartment doesn't allow pets and he can't afford to move. Lexi is euthanized, and Seth, heartbroken, transports her body for cremation. Back at work, Seth removes Lexi's name tag from her kennel when he hears a noise from the forbidden section. He investigates, but finds nothing unusual. That evening, he continues browsing Holly's social media, now obsessively recording everything he learns about her. Studying her photos in detail, he finally locates the restaurant where she works. The next day, he visits the diner and reintroduces himself to Holly, who again doesn't remember him. He attempts a compliment on her hair, but she remains detached and simply brings his meal. Seth soon tries asking her out again, but Holly declines, saying she has a boyfriend. Seth instantly replies that she doesn't, unsettling Holly. She drops the bill and walks away. That night, Holly feels uneasy as if someone is following her. Outside her home, Seth is lurking in the bushes. Inside, Holly tells her roommate Claire about her suspicion, but Claire dismisses it as anxiety. Holly gets a drunk phone call from her ex, Eric. After she ends the call, Claire advises her to forgive Eric, saying solitude is worse. Holly, unwilling to accept that, drinks instead. The next day at work, Holly finds a huge bouquet of flowers with a mysterious Be Mine card. Later, she visits Eric at his bar and confronts him, only to learn he didn't send the flowers. He tries convincing her to rekindle their relationship, but Holly reminds him he cheated. Seth, having followed her, enters the bar unnoticed and watches from a corner. When Holly steps outside for a smoke and to write, Seth approaches and starts chatting. She still doesn't recognize him and tells him she's leaving. When he reveals he sent the flowers, she finally places him and realizes he's been stalking her. Seth insists he's not dangerous and only wants to talk, saying he's never forgotten her. When Holly tries to walk away, he blocks her path. She shoves him and rushes back into the bar. Eric notices and hears her recount the confrontation. Furious, Eric leaps over the counter and punches Seth, who starts laughing despite bleeding. Eric continues attacking him until Holly pulls him away. Eric then throws Seth out, warning him never to return. Lying outside, Seth spots something on the ground, Holly's journal. He takes it home and tends to his wounds, then opens the notebook. It turns out to be Holly's private journal full of raw emotional entries. Seth reads all night, feeling deeply connected to her anguish. The next day, Seth sneaks into the shelter's off-limits area and discovers a hidden hatch. Below, he finds an old, unused room with electricity, which sparks an idea. In the following days, he purchases supplies and builds a makeshift cage in the room. All the while, he reads Holly's journal and steals medicine from the center. He tests the sedative on himself and sleeps deeply without complications. One night, as Holly walks home, she feels watched. She spins around and sprays her pepper spray, only to hit a random homeless man by mistake. She flees while Seth watches quietly from the shadows. He tails the now screaming man and later sneaks into Holly's home through a window, while she's in the bathroom. She hears a noise, finds the window open, and shuts it. Then, as she gets into bed, Seth pounces and injects her with the sedative. She struggles briefly before passing out. He smuggles Holly to the shelter in a box. When Nate questions this, Seth lies, saying the boss called him for an urgent delivery. Nate buys the excuse and asks for a signature. As they talk, Holly stirs and makes a sound, which Seth covers with a cough. Another noise follows, but Nate chalks it up to the air conditioner. Holly regains consciousness inside the cage, horrified and panicked. While trying to escape, she tears off a fingernail. She screams for help, but only the dogs hear, barking in response. Nate ignores them. The next morning, Seth brings a bedpan and speaks gently. Holly screams insults, so Seth withholds food, saying they'll try again tomorrow. As she yells, he walks away. She starts trying to file the lock. The next day, he offers water and food. When she clutches his leg and begs, he tells her it's necessary to set limits. That night, Holly begins hallucinating Claire, who predicts the horrors Seth will inflict. Holly yells at her to shut up. Later, while using the bedpan, a rat scares her and she kicks it to death. Seth finds the bloody mess the next day. Holly asks if he plans to harm or violate her. He says he hopes not, depending on whether he can save her. Holly assumes he's in a cult, but he says it's not for him, it's for her. He felt invisible until he met her and believed she saw him, but realized that version of her was a lie. He wants to discover the real Holly to determine if she's redeemable. She insults him again, and he leaves. On his way out, Nate catches him and warns him not to wander there. Nate checks the door, but finds it locked. That night, Holly tells Claire she plans to wait. The next morning, Seth returns with the journal. He pities her for her view on love. She mocks him, saying stalkers don't understand love. He mentions Claire, having overheard Holly talking to her in two voices. He asks if Claire is here. Holly says no, but points behind him, admitting she can see her, even though she knows she isn't real. Seth suggests he's referring not just to the room, but to her home too. The truth emerges. Claire once existed and lived with Holly when she got engaged to Eric. Claire had an affair with him, which Holly discovered via email. In a rage, Holly drove recklessly with Claire in the car and crashed. Both were injured, and when Claire spoke, Holly stabbed her with a shard of glass. Authorities ruled it accidental. In the present, Holly says she writes fiction. Seth reveals he's been observing her and knows she's been murdering strangers since Claire's death, like the homeless man. He believes she keeps the journal out of guilt and desire for punishment, but insists he's here to save her. Holly pretends to accept his help. After he leaves, Claire's hallucination claps sarcastically. Holly confesses she's lying just to give Seth false hope. The next time he visits, he brings her a cloth and water. She toys with him and talks about enjoying killing. He refuses to believe it and chalks it up to trauma. She taunts him, comparing herself to sharks trapped in aquariums, smashing into glass. When she jokes that her suicide would make it look like Seth killed her, he storms off. At work, he's reprimanded by the boss for underperformance and warned of potential termination. On his next visit, Seth offers just 2 candy bars, asserting control. Holly manipulates him by describing a dream of living happily together on a beach, prompting Seth to soften and promise more food. As he fetches snacks, Nate sees him again. Suspicious, Nate finds the hatch unlocked and discovers Holly in the cage. She begs for help, and Nate tries to free her. Seth returns, and Holly subtly signals him to attack. Nate is distracted when Seth ambushes him. Nate fights back, but Seth grabs a knife and stabs him. Holly trips Nate, then sweet-talks Seth into finishing the job. Seth smashes Nate's head with a cinder block. Holly enjoys the violence. Afterward, she coaches him on cleanup. Seth removes identifying markers from the corpse, dismembers it, feeds parts to the dogs, and burns the rest. He tells the boss Nate left and vanished. Later, he tosses Nate's teeth into a river. Returning to clean, Holly mocks him and says his dark desires draw him to her. She forces his hand toward her body, but he resists. When he gets back to the office, a detective is inspecting Nate's belongings and questions Seth, noticing flaws in his story. The detective also points out that Seth speaks of Nate in the past tense. Seth treads carefully as the investigation continues. He brings food to Holly, but she's silent for days. Eventually, she agrees to speak on one condition. He must offer her a finger as proof of love. Initially, he refuses, but she delivers an emotional monologue about always feeling different and how only he truly understands her. Shaken, Seth retreats to the bathroom to collect himself. He returns and cuts off his finger. Holly pretends to reach for it but grabs the knife instead, threatening to kill herself unless freed. Seth unlocks the cage. Holly steps out, weak but standing. She kisses him, says she loves him, then slashes his throat. Claire's hallucination points to the open door. Time passes, and Holly is back with Eric. She's landed a publishing deal for her journal, presented as fiction. When Eric receives a suspicious message, Holly calmly hands him the phone, discovering he's cheating again. She says nothing. Later, Holly visits an abandoned warehouse, where Seth, horribly mutilated, is caged. She now tortures him whenever she feels an urge to kill, meaning he truly did save her.